When you guys are ready, I'm going to start at the 12-minute mark because we've been recording for 12 minutes. 3, 2, 1, and welcome to CBM Voice Chat. I'm your host, Elfman, and this will be episode 33, and we're going to be talking about how yesterday, on May 20th, 2020, we found out that not only is the Snyder Cut of Justice League real, but in fact,
it is.
HBO Max will be releasing it sometime in 2021. So something that we've been campaigning for 3 years after all this time. Woo!
All you haters can suck it.
First time I'm hearing about it.
Bunch of unbelievers.
Exactly. I just wanted to ask you guys, what does it feel like to be able to actually see this all come to fruition? Like, what was it like to know that we had basically like helped campaign to make this happen?
I'll start, I guess. It's freaking satisfying is what it is. It's like a weight off my chest. It's like, I don't know. It just feels good. It feels good to have it confirmed and to see some progress on it. And it's honestly really exciting about, I think it's really opened the door for some more exciting installations in the DCEU.
Before I forget to mention, I just wanted to thank my co-hosts Angry Black Manta and Hank for joining me today. Yeah, and thank you so much, Angry Black Manta. Like, you've been such a long-time podcast collaborator, and it's been crazy. It's been pretty crazy. I think we started doing this podcast series before Justice League came out, so we've been doing this for quite a while.
We did have a podcast one for specifically, I think, like the final trailer. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been
honestly, I think
how young and innocent we were.
Exactly, and of course that is Hank on the other side of the podcast voice channel, and I just wanted to thank him once again for constantly coming in and contributing and joining us, kind of like as the third Calibero of this
thank you podcast. Don't throw flowers, just send money.
Fair enough. And I wanted to ask you, Hank, when did you find out that the Snyder Cut was real and that it was going to be out on HBO Max?
Okay. I found out actually like a week ago not a week ago, I think on Sunday.
Please.
Just because I know and it was immediately like this kind of feeling. And then it was just like, okay, well, when's it coming out? I'm so excited. It's like, 2021. I'm like, oh shit! Now I gotta wait till 2021. Stuff like that. It's sort of. It was the feeling of getting back on a hype train where you're just like, oh, I'm so excited, and then like realizing you still have to wait. So it was just kind of back, and I'm like, oh, because I feel my reaction wasn't that strong because I've kind of dropped out of a lot of the conversation and debate regarding it, and I think I had come to terms with the idea that I might not ever get to see it. So, well, it's not denying, but it was sort of just like hey, if I never see it, oh well, but if I get to see it, that'd be great, sort of thing. So, granted, I was excited, but for me, it wasn't like a ha-ha in your face fuckers because I was just proven right. It was more just like, I could be excited about a DC movie again.
Mm-hmm.
And be excited about one that's actually coming out. Fucking Flash production.
Yeah, I think honestly, I feel the same way. I always believed it was going to be coming out, but I have dropped away from being on here daily on the server daily and watching the news avidly. But I think this has completely changed that. I'm a lot more excited for the future. And I think this completely changes everything. Like I said, I think Zach is going to be involved again.
Oh, definitely. I think that's going to be the case because both Zach and Deborah said in the Hollywood Reporter article that came out yesterday that they're going straight into work on Zack Snyder's Justice League, and they're doing the cool thing of bringing in a lot of VFX and CGI studios that currently don't have any work to do because of the current coronavirus pandemic, and giving them some stuff to do. And they're going to be updating footage, adding in CGI, and just basically working on this movie / TV miniseries type of deal for 2021. So hopefully it'll be ready soon.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read how Zach's an asshole for doing this.
You already have. I mean, I've already seen so many people like, "Oh, this has a bad precedent." It's like, no, it doesn't. This is a very
encouraging toxic behavior.
This is a very unique situation. And like I saw someone say, like, how is this a bad precedent? A company listening to their, like hardcore desire or for a product. It's like that's just good business. But yeah, like it's weird because I never expected to see Ben Affleck with anything DC related again. But apparently he's a producer for the Batman still. He's a producer for Justice League, and it's like, we've seen him. He's in shape now. Hopefully because he's doing some additional stuff for the pickups for Justice League for the Snyder Cut. And then you have Henry Cavill, who looks like really excited for the first time in a long time about possibly doing more Superman films. There's talk about Supergirl. It's just like the door has been completely blown open.
Exactly. I think it just kind of, I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere, because at least in my case, I had kind of had the idea that the Snyder Cut was going to be released, or that it was going to be announced as an HBO streaming service thing. I have a few sources from where I am that have been kind of giving me hints towards stuff that ended up being true. So I kind of had the idea that what was going to happen yesterday with Zack Snyder announcing that he was going to do a Man of Steel group watch and Q&A afterwards, that something was going to happen. But I couldn't stay for the whole thing, so I had to go to work. But then on the work, while I was at work, I did notice that my phone had not necessarily been blown up, but I got a ton of pings. And the first thing I saw when I looked at the screen was a Variety article, and I realized, holy crap, I think something big had happened. And I didn't check it right away, but you could tell based on just the URL, the Snyder Cut is real. It's coming out on HBO Max. It feels like vindication. Yeah. It's been kind of crazy to go on this journey.
That's awesome. I can't say I had any inside people who let me know something was going to happen, but just seeing like some buzz on Twitter, I expected something big to be dropped, but it didn't really. I didn't really think it was the Snyder Cut until someone said that Zach had originally planned to do this watch during in June, but had moved it up a couple weeks, which was weird. So after that, I was kind of like, I was pretty sure it was going to get dropped, but there's always that little bit of doubt. But yeah, I was just following the whole thing on Twitter. I was looking at the live tweets as Zach was finishing up the commentary, and I was just watching in real time as it dropped. And then I was at work because I couldn't watch it, so I couldn't watch it. And behind me at work, at the bank, there's a big screen where, they show the news and stuff. About 20 minutes after the announcement, it popped up on the screen behind me, which was pretty dang cool.
Holy crap. It had its own Chiron, or was this kind of like a picture? Oh,
like it was
cool.
It had its own page where it's like, Warner Brothers and HBO has announced that the Snyder Cut is real and it's going to be on HBO Max in 2021.
Holy crap! Wow. So it had kind of reached mainstream news in that case, where you're able to see it from a screen at your workplace. Holy crap! Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I just wanted to say that, like, all the stuff that we've been kind of hearing about, all the false starts and rumors about the Snyder Cut would be released at this time, or it would be shown at this time, or Zach has been hinting at it, or Zach hasn't been hinting on it. It's been a crazy few years. I don't know. Do you guys have any particular, like, notable moments from the past few years of us kind of like hyping and getting excited for the Snyder Cut, but at the same time constantly spamming WB with social media posts and not really getting any answer until now?
The moment that comes to me is I believe that it was a user by the name of Ascendant Ancient.
Oh yeah.
When those clips leaked.
God bless him.
That was like the moment because it was sort of like if it was like beyond deleted scene. It felt like this was really sort of the fact that proof that something was indeed lost, like really lost, with what we got. And I remember like this scene that I kept on going back to is was when Cyborg was first learning to fly, because it was a great character moment with no dialogue, and the fact that it got cut, and like there was no reason for it to really get cut, other than for runtime, and it was. I feel like that I kind of go back to that moment as like where it kind of like the idea of this Snyder Cut and like wanting to kind of see it did become real for me, where it was just like it was at that moment became tangible. Like where it was like before it was kind of like an idea or theory, but that's when it really just became like real. Yeah, in a sense.
I feel like, because I remember those Ascended dropping those, and it was awesome. And then I think a few months after that, like 6 months after that, it was like, well, it's out there, but I'm starting to lose faith that it's actually going to come out. And then it was kind of amusing to see Zach. He would hear about some different things that happened in the theatrical and be like, "Oh my God, what the fuck is that?" So that was amusing, but it still wasn't like an indicator of anything to come. But I think I became certain about it when he started dropping stuff. And then it was just an eventuality when he said, he dropped it. He dropped a picture of the film canisters and said it exists. After that, it was just an eventuality.
That was such a big moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was actually today, I saw an old tweet from Mark Hughes. Well, not an old tweet, but like from a little bit from like the end of last year. But he was talking about how false information had been intentionally spread to like different people outside of WB, so that they would leak it to news sources and stuff like that. And how he was talking about like how even he had information that he fully believed, but didn't find out till later that it was actually entirely false. This whole thing has just it's like an actual conspiracy theory. We've in the conspiracy theory.
I feel like now I'm willing to believe that the landing was fake. This was so wrapped up. It was going right up there. I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna start rechecking some of the stuff I dismissed years ago.
I'm not quite there yet, but you do you.
I think the funny thing about conspiracy theories is that they're only ideas that haven't been proven to be right yet. But at the same time, it's pretty obvious that the Snyder Cut was something that we had kind of gotten the gist of, something that it should have existed. After all, everything that we saw with 2017's Justice League in theaters looked nothing like the footage that Zack had shown in the trailers or had kind of shown on social media. Everything looked off. There were definitely signs that there were more reshoots than had originally been led on. And while I know that Hank and I both appreciate 2017's Justice League for what it is, I think we can both agree that it did not feel or even look like a Snyder film at all. And I think a lot of people were really disappointed by that.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but like when you were watching Justice League the first time, I kept thinking like, okay, Zack is pretty reliant when it comes to his trailers. Basically everything that you see in a trailer is going to end up being in his movie, unless there's interference. I mean, like, because with BVS, there was a lot of stuff that was left out. Then we found out later that it's being cut out. But other than that, like, everything you see in his trailers is going to be in his films. So I remember sitting there in Justice League watching it, and I was like, okay, I'm waiting for this scene to happen. And as it came closer to the end, it was like, all this crap is being cut out. And it doesn't have that feeling.
What was so like baffling about that fact was the fact that the scenes that weren't in the movie but were in the trailers were scenes that the trailer was like, here's the money shot that you're looking for. And it was like these were the scenes that the trailers were taking and running with, and they weren't in the movie. it was like, I think that's what was so baffling is watching it, and it's just being like, why isn't that scene here if it was all over the advertising?
Yeah. It's like, where's like what? I remember seeing like the flowers at the end, like I'm popping up out of nowhere. It was like, oh my gosh, what did they do? Because that's not something you're gonna see with Zack Snyder. You're not gonna see like, oh, the world has been put right, everything is okay, not a single person died, everything is peachy. It was just like, what is happening? Because you get closer to the end, it's like, okay, you can clearly tell where Zack had his influence and what was Whedon. And it was like more and more. It's just like Whedon.
Well, yeah, and I remember watching in theaters where I would watching. I'm like, oh, great, and then like it would cut to a shot. I'm like, oh, that's a reshoot.
Yeah,
like, and it was obvious it was a reshoot.
What was your reaction when the movie started, and you see, and Superman turns around? I was like, I remember my heart just sinking. Just like,
I think the first thought that literally happened in my head, that came in my head was, I'm pretty sure if you squint, it won't be that bad. because contrary to a lot of belief, I go into movies wanting to like them.
Yeah.
So my brain went straight into, do this and you will enjoy the movie more.
It'll be okay.
Mode.
Yeah.
It's just like,
turn off your brain for a few hours.
Squints, and it might be okay. Well, this is my favorite part. It was the fact that I dragged both my parents to go see it opening night.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I still have the ticket. But like part of it is that scene comes out and that thought comes to my head, and then the second thought in my head is, what are my parents thinking? Like it was like, oh god, and then like slowly I would just keep on looking at my parents, just gauge their reaction. And it was just like, are they buying it? Are they freaked out by this?
Yeah, same reaction with the second time I saw it with a big group of friends. It was like the same reaction because they're all really hardcore Disney and Marvel fans. Like, they're those people that have like Disney all over their house. Like, they're ride or die for Marvel. So he's, so I've been hyping up, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and it's like, these great films. And it's like, I hope they can see what I love in Justice League. Maybe that.
And then the movie starts, and you're like, "Yep, that's it."
It's like, oh man,
that's it.
Like, I'd seen like
I bought a ticket.
I'd been invited to like a critic viewing, so I'd actually seen it a couple days before, but I was still in like this haze of denial, where I was like, you know what, it's okay, it's fine. It could have been better, but it's fine. But watching it with my friends that second time, it was just like, ugh.
Did your friends like it though? Like, if they like Disney and Marvel films, you don't think that maybe Justice League appealed more to their sensibilities?
You would think so, but it didn't. It was like, it's not like they had like it was like a chore or like a torture for them to watch this movie. But it's just like,
I feel what it is because you're already like, you don't see what's great with DC is DC has to really like wow you for you to be like, oh yeah, the movie was great. So when it does present you with something that, because while I enjoyed Justice League, it's the most average film currently in the DCU right now. Like, without question, it's the most average one. So when you're trying to win people over and saying, hey, would you want to watch this paint on this wall dry, not slower or sped up, but at regular speed?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you aren't going to win anyone over.
Honestly, I've won more people over to DC, actually considering and enjoying DC movies by just having watch parties. Like with me and Mango, we have watch parties, and we've actually seen a lot of people that were like lukewarm and just like meh about it. Like, they've become really excited. We got a lot of people hyped for Justice League. From watching Man of Steel,
this is where
having a commentary when we watched it.
This is where I'm going to say this thing where it's kind of to try to reel back around to the Snyder Cut talk and all the other stuff was. I remember I showed my friend all the DCU movies. I remember he had avoided them because of all the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he watched it, and I showed him Man of Steel, and his first reaction was, "Wait, that was it?" And like at first I was like, "Oh, he's just boring." He's like, "No, what? Wasn't he supposed to like kill some people, like civilians or stuff like that?" I was just like, "I got him!"
Oh no.
And he was just like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah." The review said he like killed civilians, and it was just, I was just like, "No, this is a C." It's just like, he was like, "It wasn't that bad." He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I take the next Nostalgia Critic video with a grain of salt." And it was,
Jeez, Nostalgia Critic.
Oh dear.
yeah. And then like I showed him Batman v Superman, the same thing. It was like, wow, I was under the impression that he used that Batman used guns more. And it's like, nope.
Yeah, you would think from all the talk, it was like, if I hadn't seen the movie, because I also saw that one early. If I hadn't seen that movie early and I looked at the reviews, I would have thought that Batman was basically the Punisher. Some people would,
And right now there's someone listening to this and going, "He is."
yeah, there's definitely people that still believe that, but it's like there's a huge difference. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's
the
a lot of it
difference
was blown out of
is-
proportion.
The difference is that if you actually go frame by frame and count it, Batfleck has the lowest kill count of
He
most
does.
modern,
He does.
most
He
modern
does.
Batman.
Keaton's freaking psychotic. So is Bailman actually injures cops. He attacks cops all the time.
Bale has a higher kill count than
He
Batfleck.
does. He has a higher kill count in one scene where he blows up all the ninjas.
I think Keaton only killed about 20 something, and then
He
Bale
he had 18 in one where he blows up the factory.
yeah.
And then he had 2 more in Returns.
In Returns, yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of those like circus freaks people or whatever, and then he takes out one guy and throws him down the sewer with the bomb. That part always makes me laugh.
Yeah, and that's why he gets away with it.
Exactly.
It's hilarious, but it's
funny.
He's
murder.
smiling while he does it.
Freaking Clooney is the only one that hasn't killed people.
That's not true. He killed my childhood.
He killed Batman's career in Hollywood. For
That
a
is
number
true.
Of years.
For an entire decade.
But yeah, that's cool.
He also killed Batman Triumph.
Oh, the Triumphant, yeah.
Yeah, the next installment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know we talked a lot about what we didn't like about Justice League and what issues we had with it. But now that
Oh
we
my
know
god,
that,
we need to start the new movement to release Batman Triumphant.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
We gotta get George Clooney back into the bat suit.
Okay, I'd be down with that.
I wouldn't mind seeing, for all the crap that, I know this is super off topic, but for all the crap that Batman and Robin gets, and that Clooney gets, there are some really, really good scenes between him and Alfred. Every scene with him and Alfred is actually really good. So that at least has that going for it.
I kind of love that the 4 movies, the 4 older Batman movies, they're all kind of linked together by Alfred because he's the same actor in every single one.
So is Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not in it as much though. Yeah.
But the thing about the Snyder Cut being released, that the thing that gives me hope is it gives me a small glimmer of hope that sometime in the future we're finally going to get the theatrical cuts of the original Star Wars trilogy in high definition.
You mean the non-special edition versions?
Yeah, the non-special editions officially.
I would like I would like them to split the difference with the special editions, because there's some things that are really, really good about the special editions, and then some stuff that's just you can see George Lucas slowly losing his mind. And then the prequels happened, and then he fully had just lost the plot.
He just became a genius again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just yeah.
He focuses more on theme rather than execution. I think that's common complaints. But yeah, definitely. If you later on, we can talk about other fan movements. That
I need it. I need the reruns. I can't watch Return of the Jedi in high definition because of the added no when Vader saves Luke.
Yeah, that
destroys everything. That was my breaking point.
Yeah, that's
Han breaking his neck wasn't a breaking point.
That's probably one of the worst.
I could live with that.
But I like the addition of holy crap. Ugh. Dying.
You like the addition of dying?
Christensen at the end as a Force ghost.
I don't know. I kind of miss the old actor.
I
feel
don't
like there was
you
a
don't
bit
even know
of a
him.
disservice. I know.
He's just some dude that looks like Wedge's dad.
Exactly. Yeah, and he had that little egg face and everything.
Holy crap! I have corona.
You can't say that. We're going to be demonetized.
Do I have this? Did you guys listen to the last episode? I censored the word Corona.
Really?
Yeah.
Censored again, but use various sound bites from Zack Snyder's voice from interviews.
Okay.
to censor it.
Sounds
Put
good.
in the word notion.
Not even complete words, just sounds.
Just sounds. Okay.
Put in sound bites
like-
of Zach saying notion.
Notions. Okay. I will have to keep that in mind then. I did want to ask you guys though. Now that we know that Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to come out either as like a 4-hour movie or as like a multi-part series, which format would you guys prefer watching it in?
Blu-ray.
Would you want to watch a 6-hour type of like episodic miniseries type of deal, or would you prefer one straight 4-hour movie?
I want a fucking Blu-ray that I could watch when the internet goes out. That's what I want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is other than the fact that I can hold it in my hands and I can hug it and I could put it in the old Justice League case after I snap the theatrical cut in half.
Mm-hmm. I'll probably do the same thing too, actually. I've got that Steelbook that Jim Lee signed for me a couple of years ago, so I treasure that quite a bit. Yeah.
I would rather have a movie. I said it earlier in Snyderverse, but it seems weird to think about watching Man of Steel, BVS, and then 6 episodes of Justice League. That just feels weird. I would rather just be able to sit down and watch and just watch it in one thing. Mm-hmm. Just finally be able to just sit down and watch it.
Well, the thing I was talking about with others was the fact that I myself would prefer it to be one movie and stuff. The thing is that if you weigh which one is more advantageous to a streaming platform or streaming service, it is the miniseries format.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to do it as a miniseries just because it would be more beneficial to them to do it, because that means they have more of your binge watching time and stuff like that, and they can absolutely trap you out of that like first free week like Mandalorian did with Disney Plus.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. But I see the advantages of it. I would like them to do like a Watchmen style where like you have the theatrical, which is like a slightly longer than normal movie. Maybe like a 3-hour movie, and then you have the director's cut, which is like 4 hours or whatever. We just have different versions of them.
I think that's where pretty much I'm at too. Like I do want to see Zack Snyder's Justice League someday in theaters, but I don't know if I want to stay for like a full like 6-hour six part thing. I'd rather see exactly like Watchmen. Like you could definitely condense it down to a solid 3.5, maybe 4-hour film, and I wouldn't mind that. But
release the one that he showed the executives.
Yeah.
Like
I sincerely hope Zach made the executives sit down for 4 hours.
Oh yeah.
and show them the whole movie.
I think it was 180 minutes.
Is that what he said? Yeah, I was surprised that he showed a black and white version of the movie, because that's apparently what the executives saw, and that's partially why Zach had been posting mainly black and white shots on Vero over the past few years.
Someone was saying that it works better with VFX that isn't quite finished yet. It looks better. I don't know if that's the real reason, but
okay, yeah, that would probably make a lot of sense. I've noticed that a lot of people have said that Zack Snyder's films kind of have like a darker, more or less saturated color palette to them, because it helps hide CGI mistakes and makes the CGI look better. Because otherwise, if it had been brightened up, then you can definitely see a lot of the edges.
We talked about this with Aquaman, but Aquaman will look 100% better. Like the VFX is amazing for Aquaman, but it's completely on a different level when you get to the part where he and Mira are. They find the trench, and then he talks to that Julie Andrews sea monster thing. Mm-hmm. It looks 100% better because you can't see every single detail. But when he's in the throne room and he's like all chained up and stuff, it looks weird. you can spot the weirdness
Yeah, because it's so
because
bright.
the whole room. Yeah, because the whole room is just white.
It looks very two-dimensional. The whole the whole background.
Yeah, yeah.
I definitely get that. So yeah, no, I think that's a cool way. It's a good stylistic element that Zack Snyder's chosen to put in his movies, and I think it really works out. That's why I think his CGI, especially when you watch Man of Steel again for like the 10th plus time, like from 7 years ago, the CGI looks fantastic, right? Because you never really noticed that the Kryptonians are wearing armor, but that's all CGI.
Honestly, Zack Snyder is probably the best with visual effects.
Michael Bay.
I think Michael Bay can suck it. But I think it's between him, Matt Reeves, and
you want to
James
say
Cameron.
it. You know what? Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna say
Matt
Ryan
Reeves,
Johnson.
Because like Matt Reeves, with the Planet of the Apes movies, those movies are like, War of the Planet of the Apes. I missed half the dialogue because I was staring at the apes because they look flawless.
Oh, they do. Oh man, yeah. I think there was Weta who worked on the CGI for the apes, and yeah, they look fantastic.
Makes sense.
I believe they're also working on Zack Snyder's Justice League too. I'm pretty sure there was like a news article where they had done the CGI for the original film as it was filming, and they're going to come back to finish up. So that kind of leads into my next question that I was trying to ask you guys earlier, but we had all these like off tangent stuff, which is, what do you want to see most in the 4-hour movie / like 6-hour miniseries or whatever? Like, what aspect of the plot that we had known about or we thought we knew about do we really want to see in this movie?
Hank?
I need to think.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, maybe a second chance for Steppenwolf to win the hearts of America's youth, which I know he will. They will love him.
I think it'll be tough because the rumor is that Zack Snyder wants to go back to the OG kind of like darker, more alien-like design, and I would love that. But at the same time, I think people would hate it more, especially since people never really reacted well to how Steppenwolf looked in BVS. So I hope that along with the design, the change in design to a more like scary alien-like look, that he's able to actually do stuff in the movie that will scare the crap out of us.
I just hope they add color to him, because while I enjoy Steppenwolf, is the fact that his color palette was gray and white kind of makes for really visually uninteresting character. His color palette was gray, white, silver, and black.
It was just a weird place to stop because there's obviously like they took the alien and then they took a human format and they kind of split the difference, and it was just like a weird place to stop. I would prefer, I want my Steppenwolf either completely alien and terrifying, or just Ciarán Hinds in alien armor.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Steppenwolf's attire bugs me the most.
Sorry, I fell asleep. It was weird.
It's okay. Thank you for joining us, Bleepy. We're actually doing a podcast right now, but we're just talking about the whole Release the Snyder Cut movement and how it kind of ended up actually being announced as something that's coming out next year. So since you're here, and because I always wanted to like invite more people to join in on the podcast anyways, I'd love to ask you.
You heard him, everyone. Unmute yourselves and talk at one.
Exactly. I just wanted to ask you, Bleepy, while you're here, what did you think of the announcement, and how do you feel about the whole thing? And remember, this is going to be a recording that we're going to upload to YouTube later.
Well, I just
say everything is incriminated.
Well, I think it's a good thing, but it's they were just kind of delaying it. So I said before, think of it like a marketing campaign, and you've got a good idea as to how things will be done. So they're just going to drip announce.
No worries. Thank you so much, Bleepy. I don't know if you wanted to elaborate more, Angry Black Manta, and more on what your thoughts are on Steppenwolf, and what kind of things do you want to see him do in the movie that would really like cement to you that he's a threatening villain?
Kill more people?
Me or sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I'm talking a lot.
No, like just I don't know if I should mention what I heard about what he planned to do with the Steppenwolf, but apparently what he was like leaked to do. So apparently, like kill a Doomsday in the Snyder cut, which that's a pretty good way to show you're not to be fucked with. But I'm curious to see how the Kryptonian scientists will send information that creating a Doomsday is a bad idea.
Yeah, we don't know for sure if that's going to be an actual plot element. I've been kind of hearing conflicting reports, and I'm not really sure what's going on, if they're going to bring back a Doomsday. But it was cool, though, that yesterday morning during the Man of Steel watch party, we found out that Krypton's moon had been kind of partially destroyed because of a Doomsday. So I think that's actually really cool, and it'd be a nice way to kind of tie in that character throughout all three of Zack Snyder's Justice League films. So yeah, that's actually a really awesome thing that you brought up. I think for me, yeah, definitely the history lesson, being able to see maybe some more representatives from other parts of the DC universe come into fights. Steppenwolf and the other New Gods. We're going to see potentially the Thanagarians. We're going to see more Amazons. We're going to see more Green Lanterns, hopefully. Well, I guess the Green Lantern that we got to see was actually pretty cool already, but I would have loved to see more of him. Would have loved to see more of the ancient Greek deities get their chance to fight. And yeah, I think the history lesson on its own is such an interesting, rich way to kind of show almost like a proto Justice League fighting Steppenwolf.
Most definitely. I'm more interested in how you got the how it all ties back to Man of Steel. So remember how the explorers from Man of Steel were sending information back to Krypton, and why shit kept failing, and maybe why Earth was the only place for Clark, and why maybe more about why Zod was like, what, we've got to really, well, I guess at this point this is kind of redundant, but it'll probably explain why, Jor-El sent Clark to Earth, and why he knew that, shit was going to go south with the moon and, Krypton's destruction. Excuse me.
That'd be pretty cool. I've always liked the idea that Jor-El had more mysterious reasons for sending his son to Earth. That maybe it wasn't just because it had a yellow sun that would give Kal-El superpowers as he was growing up. Any other favorite parts that you guys wanted to bring up, or any other parts of the Zack Snyder Justice League full film that you really wanted to see that maybe we didn't get in the theatrical version?
More Flash, because
who cares?
Flash. I do.
I want to see more Batfleck.
Well, I don't fucking care. I want
Cyborg, obviously.
I would definitely love to see more Cyborg. I would love to see more of what happened to him and his mom, and how he ended up becoming Cyborg. Maybe more
dark side,
stronger links between the Mother Box and how he ended up being what he eventually became in the film. One thing that I am kind of sad about is that I think there's definitely the sense that Cyborg's dad was going to die in the original version of Justice League, and I think that's kind of a wrong move to make, especially if the original plan was to make a Cyborg solo film, because it would be really hard to make a Cyborg solo film without literally maybe the only other recognizable member of his supporting cast to help him out. So unless maybe they retcon that throughout the movie, or maybe they change something around, we'll see how that goes. I do have faith that Zach will put that in the story for hopefully very suitable and like a solid storytelling reason. But for now, it's one of the few things that kind of make me wince, because I was really glad that at least in the theatrical version of Justice League that we saw, his dad was still around.
Yeah.
Well, I think that what that brings in is a question that, because I haven't been around a lot on social media, but the question that keeps on popping up is the canon of DCEU and how this will affect it, because it isn't just a simple thing because a character is dead in this. So how will canon be approached from it? There is the fact that right now, canon is kind of loose amongst the movies, but it's is this going to be the version that will be acknowledged as the movies go on, or is it going to keeping theatrical?
So that's a strange thing. A lot of people on social media have said that for the most part, they would imagine films that chronologically follow Justice League, like Aquaman and Wonder Woman 84, would be more likely to follow what Zack Snyder had originally planned with the Snyder Cut more than the theatrical cut. For example, there was the supposed ending for Aquaman's character in Justice League, where he would basically hitchhike a ride on a truck and go back to see his dad, which would lead straight into the beginning of Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just
so I'm gonna have to say goodbye to that incredibly beautiful CG shot of him dolphin swimming in the water.
No,
in his blue jeans. Yeah.
No,
there's
so much wonky CG Aquaman stuff in the theatrical cut that I won't be seeing anymore. Because while I enjoy the theatrical cut, there's some shots where they had no idea what the fuck they were doing.
That's where I lose a lot of respect, like just like all respect. Okay. Let me rephrase that. That's where I lose all of the little respect I have for Joss. It's just like you looked at that, like you looked at Henry's face, and you just let that be released. Like it's just, can you imagine that being on your resume?
Well,
just
to be fair, that
by.
was a circumstantial thing because, of course, we all know
It
that
could have
Henry
been better,
Cavill,
though.
It could have been better, but he had
could have given him
the
a beard.
mustache.
The rest of the movie.
Go the opposite direction. Give him a beard.
I would definitely agree with that.
It's
I think
also
that's
better
the best idea.
throughout the rest of the movie too. Like it's in the first scene they use like a completely different effect.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Much worse than what they have for the rest of the movie. Because the rest of the movie, it still looks where it can get by in certain shots. This one, it never.
There's just like a lot of like just cut corners. I mean, like I know it's a huge job to reshoot 80% of a movie in less than a year, but he cuts the wrong corner. He cut the wrong corners. There are ways that you could have cut corners and still had a decent movie that still had some of Zach's stuff in it. But he just like went off the rails, like just like story wise. He brought in story elements that just like made no sense whatsoever, and it's just totally unnecessary.
But the thing with it is part of it is the storytelling with the reshoots is so. I love how this talk about the Snyder Cut just turned into a retrospective of the theatrical. But the thing that always throws me off is how with reshoots it's somehow less focused, and like it's less focused in the scenes that are clearly reshot. The thing I always get to, the reason why I tolerate Justice League so much is because, usually the reason I tolerate the theatrical cut so much is because a lot of the criticism I tend to hear, often nitpicking, there's some legitimate gripes to have with this movie. For example,
you're cutting off a little bit, actually, Hank. I was wondering if maybe, I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're cutting out.
How am I doing that?
Maybe a little bit better.
The same.
Should I just disconnect and reconnect?
Right now it's fine, actually. Like I'm sorry, but you can
I want you to just play Zack Snyder saying "notion" over and over during that entire technical difficulty.
Sure.
There's this notion.
This is notion.
But I always find so weird how you have this cold open where a paradigm fucking self-destruct, and for no fucking reason that self-destruct leaves 3 mother box carvings into the wall. Like, why the fuck would it do that? It's the dumbest shit imaginable. And then he goes to get Aquaman, and they introduce the boxes again.
Lex Luthor's journal that has all of his crimes in it.
Yeah, and they literally have the boxes in the village of Aquaman, which does exactly the same job that this fucking cold open does. And it's so dumb.
I think they do that maybe to expedite the plot. And
no one talks about it.
They smell fear.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just goes to they smell fear, not. They go to the smell fear thing. They go to the fact that the mother boxes are introduced twice in the exact same way.
And that, kids, is how you know that Joss Whedon is a hack.
Oh my god! Especially his writing. Okay, let's drift away from the theatrical version and kind of the issues that we've had about it. And maybe just kind of get on to, I think, one of the bigger pressing topics of this whole like crazy situation, which is just kind of like the fan reaction and the critical reaction and what all the bloggers on social media are saying about the release. Maybe some things are pretty positive. Some things are definitely negative.
That the people who are wrong would be having some humble pie right.
You would think.
You would think.
Nah.
Like, I don't really understand. Somehow they managed to double down and either kind of like move the goalposts by saying, oh, so there never really was a Snyder Cut. It's not called the Snyder Cut. It's called Zack Snyder's Justice League. Then therefore it can't be a Snyder Cut. Or something.
Okay, guys, I need to weigh in because we need to get beyond this.
So for everyone listening in the audience right now, we have
in your voice.
We have a special appearance from the head moderator over here at the DC Cinematic, where we do our podcast recording, and this is Heaven or Heck speaking in for the first time.
Hi, guys.
I thought you were
not the first time. He was here in our trailer discussion.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, you're going to call him the headmaster.
Hey, guys. It's good to hear your voices. Nice to wake up to them. Yeah, on the what is
Where
it?
are you?
You could definitely expect a moving of goalposts, but oh my God, we did it, guys. We did it, and
We did it.
I couldn't give a crap because I don't know. People are gonna do they're gonna do as many backflips as they need to get ahead of this thing, and there's no getting ahead of this thing. It's real. It's coming, and this is the best theoretical outcome that none of us ever imagined because of this new parallel track that HBO Max is offering this cut. So, oh my goodness, you are untouchable. We are untouchable. And the only ground that we give the losers is the one that we grant them ourselves. So don't give them an inch.
I could jump off a bridge and I would survive now in this world.
No. It's metaphorical.
That's actually the goal. My goal. That's actually my goal now is to survive until the Snyder Cut comes out.
Oh yeah.
That's certainly attainable, I hope.
But I just find it funny that Robert Meyer Burnett is currently arguing with Jay Oliva about its existence. It's just
really.
I find it. Yes, I find it
Who the
funny.
fuck is that? Because I don't know I don't need to know any of these losers' names anymore. We got this. We got.
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Okay. That's. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna rep anyone because they ain't shit. They ain't shit. And oh my God, Zack is back. I never expected that to happen. You know, maybe a quieter release, but this is beyond anything that I imagined, guys. You know, so I'm just over the moon about this.
Absolutely.
It's pretty crazy, but while we're trying to maybe not mention the names of like maybe some of the naysayers out there on social media, I
don't even know
censor
their
these
damn
names out.
I think it's
I don't
actually,
know any of their damn names anymore. The
It'd be
only
pretty
reason I
smart
kept up with
notion.
any of them is because they griefed actual fans about this stuff. They had nothing to stand on, but it was their job to grief people, and that blows back on me because I care about what fans feel, and now I have no reason to give them the time of the day.
Exactly. That's why I don't think we should focus our energies on talking about the negativity on social media about this whole situation. But I do want to maybe mention some of the more positive aspects of the fandom and social media, and maybe just talk a little bit about the people who we kind of followed and started liking because of the campaign. People that we might not have known were big Zack Snyder fans, people who have kind of been spreading the message and being positive online for a long time. Are there any like that come out in mind who you guys really enjoyed listening to?
Actually, there are some people who come to my mind. I know there are a lot of moving pieces to the earnest fandom that made this possible. But for me, the people who were my touchstone in all this were the Suicide Squad cast.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're. I think ever since I started listening to their podcast, I was like, they are really. I just felt in sync with them in spirit because they wanted to disseminate every DC headline out there. You know, it wasn't BVS that originally got me into this thing. It was just the sheer opportunistic blogger culture that I felt was taking advantage of the uncertainty of an emerging DC cinematic universe. And they did such a great job at presenting a sober and adult take, not mature, but just they were the adults in the room when these clowns were trying to run everyone wild, with their headlines. And they really grounded me through all these years. And their latest episode is about their trials and tribulations post-Justice League. We really feel that, but it's really hard hearing that they went through so much with their podcast because they almost threw in the towel themselves with all the disappointment along the way. And I feel that. So Suicide Squad cast. Those are mine.
Yeah. Actually, I used to listen to them religiously along with other podcasts. And up until for the last year, I haven't listened to anyone. So I hadn't even seen Scott's name in forever. But I saw him liking a tweet of mine. And I was like, holy crap, I forgot about these guys. It was nice to just to reconnect with people like that.
Yeah, actually, that's what their latest episode is about. It's about after JL, the disappointment ran so deep that they lost a lot of listeners, and a lot of people simply didn't come back due to that sheer gravity that must have affected you and everyone else. They were the only podcast I really cared about when it came to DC news. Mm-hmm. I'm also a huge Holy Batcast fan, but they're actually not the best for DC news because they don't really go into the granulars because maybe it's too much for them to handle, which is fine. But the Squadcast was the best DC film news source for fans available. I'd really appreciate just the integrity and the research that they poured into their program, but also just their attitudes. They were for what they were for. They didn't shoot at anyone else. And they somehow maintained that through the last few years, even post JL, which was a real test for them, as it was for us all.
Yeah.
So you not listening to them for a while, that's actually a very common symptom post Justice League.
And I mean, it wasn't even I was listening to them after Justice League for a year, but then it's just with everything else, I just kind of stopped paying attention, really. So they just kind of fell off by the wayside. I didn't have a job where I could listen to a podcast the whole time. So I just stopped listening to them, which sucked.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
they
their
kept
podcasts
going.
are pretty bite-sized. They're not too long, and they're pretty approachable. And I think they do a great rundown of the news in general. And they kind of have a little bit of the side topics on maybe some of the comics or animated films or TV news that we would know about. So I've always enjoyed the Suicide Squad cast for their pretty awesome way of delivering the news and being overall really positive. And I think I mentioned it before, but Tim and Scott are huge influences of mine, and they're part of the reason why I wanted to get into podcasting in the first place. So they'll always have a whole special place in my heart too.
Yeah, I would say it surprised me as I first listened to them that wow, it's like if I could make a podcast, it would be something like that. It really took after my own heart, and it was really encouraging knowing that there are fans out there who, I don't know, without even my communing with them really, they just were like that. And I really look up to them for it.
Any other podcasting or maybe social media or just kind of personalities on the internet that you guys wanted to bring up as being a positive voice towards this whole campaign?
Oh, nice. Joe Manganiello has been tweeting stuff, his support, which is awesome.
Ooh.
I really hope he gets his movie.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Skep and I at DC Cinematic, we think, we think a Gareth Evans Deathstroke movie is the most slam dunk, small, sleek project that WB could ever hope for.
Yes.
So it's a no-brainer. Seriously.
It's you could have the most metal, deep comic book movie ever made right there.
Yeah, and it would be sub 60 million and full of Indonesian badasses. Yeah. So what's the holdup? Come on.
That's exactly my thought too. After having seen the Raid part 1 and part 2, I'm just I'm all in for a Gareth Edwards Deathstroke film someday down the line.
And people are. I understand why people are down on Suicide Squad, but that IP still has potential, and I still think Floyd Wick is a viable DC Dark project.
Have you listened to Joe Manganiello talk about his process for Deathstroke?
Not in a while. Has he done something recent?
I listened to it. Wasn't recent, it was a couple of years ago on Nerdist.
Yeah,
talking about it. Yeah, but it's just listening to him talk about training to fight with a sword, and then training to fight with a sword with one eye, it's just like, I freaking love Slay.
that's real passion that you cannot buy.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, that's when JL was treated as it was, it just put a stop to everything, including those emerging hits that would have followed Justice League if it had just proceeded normally.
Freaking
That's pretty
shame.
cool. Yeah, you'll have to link.
The door's open.
Yeah, you'll have to link Joe Manga and all his social media, or just maybe that video, because I haven't actually heard of that before. But it'd be pretty cool to hear his thought process on how he had intended to act out Deathstroke.
He's like Zach. I think he and Zach probably got along really well on set because he was a nerd first. Like if you look at pictures of him when he was a teenager, like,
he still plays D&D.
Yeah, he writes for D&D. He writes campaigns for them too.
And they're both Jack dudes with smaller voices than you would expect from their build.
True enough. But yeah, like he's just like he talks about like how
I wouldn't want to fight him.
No. Like in the same podcast, he talks about
how dare you miss out on that Raimi reference? I'm out of here.
I wouldn't want to fight me neither.
No, too late. I'm done.
In the same episode, he talks about like how he his like biggest like regret or whatever.
Nope, I'm out the door.
Stealing dozens of comic books because he couldn't afford them. Like he's a true nerd through and through. Listening to him talk it's just infectious, that excitement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's even for such a larger than life man, he is very relatable when you just hear him speak.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I have a bunch of people who I wanted to give a shout out for just being such positive and interesting personalities on social media during this whole Snyder Cut campaign. I want to give a first shout out to Jay Oliva, who we kind of mentioned earlier on in the podcast about how he's been such like a vociferous presence on Twitter. Anytime somebody gets something wrong about the status of the Snyder Cut, you can tell that Jay Oliva is going to be there to put that person down and say what's what and deliver the facts. And whenever he tweets, I'm always going to like it because he's just so not only so true, but also so poignant and kind of biting with some of his tweets. So he definitely deserves a shout out. I want to give props to someone who's kind of related to Jay Oliva, and that's Mark Hughes, who is a writer for Forbes. And I've always I had followed him for a while because he had written a very positive review of Batman v Superman back when it came out in 2016. And initially he was one of those people who didn't actually know for sure if the Snyder Cut existed, but over time, apparently due to his working relationship with Jay Oliva for some sort of unannounced project, he kind of turned around and kind of became more of a believer in the whole thing overall. And he ended up being a more positive presence on social media. And finally,
Hughes took a while. He's kind of like Colbert, where he took a lot of convincing.
Exactly. But I'm glad that he's one of those people who was able to see the truth of the whole thing and essentially do a turnaround and apologize for not having known sooner or having maybe not been informed as much as he could have.
I think it was the bleach in his hair that was doing the talking.
I definitely want to give
Super Saiyan Paul Ryan.
Exactly. I definitely want to give a shout out to probably one of the most positive members of the whole Snyder Cut fandom, and that's Chris Wong Swenson, whose Ping Pong Flicks show has been not only like this daily or almost daily kind of like news wrap up on everything DC. He's kind of become like his own character in himself. He's well known for like his tinfoil hat and for some of the other memes and jokes that have gone around on social media because of him. He's also one of those people who got to go to SnyderCon last year and actually meet Zach and get stuff signed by him. And he's always been such a positive person on Twitter and on YouTube that I can't just help but just smile every time he's talking. And it's also really cool that he hosts a late night show every Saturday night where people just basically like tell him stuff and he'll just read out everybody's chat.
I didn't know he did that.
It's pretty late at night actually, because on my time it's like he starts around 12:30 at night. So
I know him best for looking like a monk in a t-shirt. But yeah, he was one of the early fan voices that I remember. Actually, funny fact, or not funny fact, there's nothing funny about it. Fun fact, Neo, Jay Oliva was instrumental in essentially convincing us as the mod team on DC Cinematic, the subreddit, that the Snyder Cut was a thing.
Oh, wow.
Post JL, just weeks after Justice League released in theaters, we did see some snippets from VFX reels that revealed scenes with in-progress effects that were not present in the film, but you can place them in the film very easily. Of course, there's a lot of trailer footage that didn't make it into the final cut, the theatrical release, rather. And then Jay Oliva was really the one from the working camp that solidified that reality for us. Because even with all that visual evidence, to announce to the subreddit that the Snyder Cut exists, and by Snyder Cut I mean a filmed vision. It doesn't have to be complete, but it has to exist, and it had to be intended and to be created, essentially. Oliva repped that very early, and I would say he was the linchpin to, actualizing the Snyder Cut as a concept among fans who wanted answers, to be perfectly honest. So, Oliva is critical to this whole story. Without him, the ball would not have gotten rolling.
That's actually really cool. I had never known that before. And
I think this was before.
that definitely explains why we all kind of realized that very early on DC Cinematic as a Reddit subreddit had really taken a stance that it had existed, much to the chagrin, I think, of a lot of other DC-themed subreddits who maybe weren't as fond of the concept as they could have.
I mean, back then, I think it was privileged information, but somehow we got it, and once we did, there really was no turning back for us because we weren't founded on Snyder fandom at all was not really a thing until after the backlash to BVS. But before Snyder fandom arose after BVS, we were just really want to curate the subreddit and offer DC fans, I guess, a kind of a no frills, whether it's a toxicity or predatory headlines, basically a vanilla news experience that they could rely on. That was our mindset going into this thing. And Jay Oliva is as real as it gets. The dude made Flashpoint, arguably the most celebrated DC animated movie of the current era that just ended with Apocalypse War. So his legitimacy was beyond question. I mean, the man also adapted The Dark Knight Returns for Warner Brothers animation. And that's as big as it gets. That's one of the last, I would say, auteuristic DC animated movie that we've gotten in a while. And the man was the real deal. He was a working DC employee. So
that's actually what he said today on Twitter. He was talking about how, several days a week, even when he wasn't working on Justice League, he'd be talking with Zach because of stuff with Wonder Woman. Zach would have to approve stuff because he's a producer.
Mm-hmm.
So he was talking about that. He's like, even when I wasn't working on Justice League, I was still in, frequent contact with Zach. I was up to date with everything that was happening.
That actually, I don't want to dwell on that too much because I think that must have been a really sad time for everyone. But Oliva, he's not just an animation guy. He storyboarded Man of Steel. He storyboarded apparently a pretty badass Wonder Woman finale, which never got realized. But yeah, he is plugged into two of those major areas of DC, and people were legit ignoring him or calling him a shill, a liar, and even without any external, any external support, we believed him because he's Jay fucking Oliva. You just believe a man like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was absolutely instrumental in giving us the confidence and the conviction to go the way we did, go down our path.
That's absolutely wonderful, and that's actually such a great story, especially since I think that's a big part of the reason why DC Cinematic, I've always seen as kind of like this bastion of not necessarily Snyder positivity, but at least like a place where people can just talk about his films without jumping into obvious like ad hominem attacks or personal attacks on Snyder's character or instant like heuristics about whether his films are bad or misogynistic or violent. So it was definitely one of those like island in a sea of like garbage type analogies that I think really helped define the subreddit.
Well, I really respect you as a person and as an intellect, Neo. So that really does mean a lot because DC Cinematic, basically, like I said before, we just don't turn our backs from the facts. That's our guiding mantra. And also, earnest fandom, whether you like Snyder or you like someone else, that's fair game. That's what we believe in. That's the baseline. And to be honest, even if standing by the facts did cost us and cost the community some sanity, I think everything that's happened already fractured the fandom anyway. So by the end, we couldn't just please anyone or try to please anyone really, whether it's Snyder fanatics, people in between, or Snyder haters. Snyder factuals. That's what we have on the subreddit. That's what pisses people off, that certain group anyway. That we treated Zack Snyder as a director in the DC Films universe. That we treated his films as DC films that happened, surprisingly. A lot of people seem shocked about that. We do not believe in rewriting history the way bloggers and fandom fashions do. It's fair game if you want to talk about how much you love any of these films, Snyder or not. DC films, past, present, and future. He's a part of that, now and forever. And there's going to be a future with him and without him. It's bigger than all of us. So that's just what we believe in at the end of the day. Yeah.
Can you read me a story tonight after that?
Sure. What's your favorite?
Can you read me Goodnight?
Goodnight Moon. Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll adapt it for a DC fandom. Good night, Doomsday. Good night, Sun.
Slightly creepy.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way we can kind of like start summing up the whole discussion of this matter. I mean, we're still got to wait till 2021. We still have a lot of other questions that we want to get answered, like will Zack Snyder's Justice League be released on other venues apart from HBO Max? Will it be a miniseries or movie or maybe both? How's everything going to work?
Let me offer some thoughts on that. Isn't that a given at this point? Even Netflix exclusives do have physical releases eventually.
Oh, they fucking better.
And
I'm still waiting for Buster Scruggs and I Am Mother.
So I'm not an insider. I'm not a pundit. I'm not an industry analyst. But I do believe that after a significant period of exclusivity, they would be really stupid not to print money with this thing, with some prestige editions. Because everyone, fans like you, Neo, they need their Steelbook fix.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
By the way, Buster Scruggs coming out is supposed to come out, I think. I've been waiting for it.
Buster Scruggs is like 1/3 Kino and 2/3 filler.
It's about death. It's all about death.
Yeah, there may be like 3 segments that I fucking love, and then the rest are kind of like, okay, that was okay.
I need it.
That's pretty cool. I have noticed that, yeah, like Netflix, some of their TV shows and their movies have gotten physical releases. I know that the Criterion Collection is actually, they released Roma earlier this year, and I know they're going to release Marriage Story and American Factory later this year too, which is a pretty cool way. And I think for a lot of customers who are maybe like international and might not immediately have access to HBO Max, having a physical Blu-ray disc or 4K disc would be a great way to kind of get as many people to watch this ginormous movie at the comfort of their own home without necessarily having to deal with broadband or internet restrictions.
Actually, I do want to elaborate a little bit that the series treatment for Justice League is something that I've been mulling for a long time, ever since maybe pre-BVS or so. because when I look back on Man of Steel, it is a lot of movie, and I think it's a little. For some reason, Man of Steel feels a little longer than BVS. So I always imagine, what if we actually split that into chunks with the Krypton prologue and Clark's flashbacks dominating the first third, and then the middle would be ending maybe with the Battle of Smallville, and then you have everything winding down with the multiple battles in Metropolis. So I was thinking for a while anyway that as a fan of prestige television, in a way, the constraints of film as a medium it lies in the audience. The attention span of the audience these days. My father walked out of Blade Runner 2049 because it was too damn long. And while that hurt me inside, I couldn't blame him either because it was pretty damn long.
It was pretty long.
Yeah, and like that soundtrack. It can test you.
Yeah, it's because it's a lot of ambient noise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is lovely, but at the same time, it's not conducive to I guess a night of escapism, really. So I have been fiddling with this serial idea for a while, especially with Tarantino kind of embracing that on Netflix. Why couldn't JL? Especially when it's coming from a storytelling tradition that benefits greatly from serialization.
Indeed.
I think right now the big question is going to be, what are we going to see added? How big is this eventually going to be? What sort of crazy ideas does Zack Snyder have in mind when it comes to filming additional footage for this project? Will we be getting maybe a condensed version for a theatrical release someday down the line? Because I couldn't imagine HBO Max and Warner Brothers not wanting to at least do some sort of like Fathom limited release showings for the
I
film
do have some
eventually.
specific thoughts on this because of the facts that we now know. And so we know that in early 2017, Zack Snyder screened a 2-hour, 20-minute cut. But that was from not an assembly cut, but his personal approved cut that was 4 hours long. The assembly was apparently 5 hours. His cut was 4 hours. So I think the absolute baseline here is 4 hours of movie / series. So that you can get from that maybe 4 or 5 episodes. But they're going back for additional scenes that they now feel free to add. So that could easily balloon to 5 hours. We'll see.
One of the interesting rumors that I've always heard is that Zack Snyder has had enough to film 2 movies. Do you think that maybe potentially for like a theatrical release, they could do a whole part 1, part 2?
I also have specific thoughts on this. If you listen to Ray Porter's interview with the Film Exiles today, he said that his hiring came when Zack was starting work on Justice League 2. So I know Hank has joked about the Snyder Cut and HBO Max ending on a cliffhanger, but I do believe it could end JL1 not just as a self-contained theatrical product, as I believe the Snyder theatrical would have been, but I do believe it's going to make that full allusion to Justice League 2 as Snyder imagined it. I think that's what it's going to end on in 2021. And that's just conjecture, given the state of things, the enthusiasm, and the ample opportunities that this movie has been given in light of recent developments. So that's kind of, because I think at this point, the best reception for the Snyder Cut and HBO Max would be the best outcome for everybody now, because everyone's fully on board. There are no more restrictions on this project. So that's how I think it's going to end.
Okay, that's perfect. We've actually got Mick here on the line. I know he wanted to kind of jump in on the distribution of the Snyder Cut.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Just one thing. Like, footage-wise, he might have shot something that's enough for 2 movies, but I don't think it'll be 2 movies because I know there's union laws with, the Screen Actors Guild or something, that you can't make 2 movies if you shot it for one production. As I think it happened with Three Musketeers in the 90s with DiCaprio and yeah. So I don't think it's 2 movies. If they did that, they have to pay all the actors double
True.
that salary.
They'll
Okay.
double their costs.
So would you just prefer maybe just one like 4+ hour movie just that you can sit down in the theater to watch?
I'm indifferent on that, but I'd rather have a theatrical because I don't know if HBO Max is rolling out internationally. Like I'm in Southeast Asia and like we have HBO Go here, but let's say if I'm traveling around different places, I don't know if I can access HBO there or as like a license like in the UK or in Australia. So yeah, hopefully I'll get a limited theatrical and physical release.
Yeah,
Matter
definitely. That's kind of like my thought
coordinating
too.
and
Okay.
move on the conversation.
All right. Sorry. I gotta piss off now. I gotta wake up early. Go to the gym for the first time in 6 months. Lovely discussion. Glad to hear from you all. Until next time.
Exactly. We'll
Until
try
next
to
time.
do this more often.
Good
Like
topic.
with all this like topics and discussion, things that are just coming up. And the interview that Heaven had mentioned with Ray Porter, I'll definitely have to give that a listen too.
That was huge, man. You got to listen to it.
It's gonna be a pretty interesting time for all of us DC fans for the next couple of months to the year up to the release of the Snyder Cut, and then probably beyond that as well, as we pontificate on the future and kind of figure out what the heck is or will WB and AT&T do next after the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I think this is probably a good time to kind of wrap up for today and just kind of once again thank you to not only Angry Black Manta for coming in to join me as a podcast host, but we've also got Hank, we've got we had Bleepy come in a little bit earlier, we have Heaven or Heck, and we have Mick. And it's one of those things where something big and monumentous like this requires more people to just be able to talk about it. And it's really cool that we're able to have this discussion and potentially over the next few weeks as we kind of learn more about what's going to happen, when we can talk about more about what we can expect, what we hope might be in the film, maybe what's going on with the potential new members of Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter, how that's all going to work out, when are they going to start filming again. There's going to be a lot of questions. So at least here at CBM Voice Chat, if we're not just talking about other random comic book stuff, we'll definitely continue this topic of the Snyder Cut / Zack Snyder's Justice League. And once again, honestly, thank you so much, guys, for listening. I don't know if do you guys have any final words in edgewise?
I really need to jet, dude.
Okay.
Please, the Snyder Cut.
I was ready to shoulder this for years, as long as it took, because like I said, I think the truth is non-negotiable, especially when people's livelihoods and just all that work. It's not just the Snyders, obviously. It's cast and crew. And I think you should listen to the Ray Porter interview because he gives his particular perspective as an actor who's invested in the project. And it's about the people as well, not just the cut. So I'm just gratified. I'm still processing all this because I did not expect to have this lifted from me so soon, but I'm kind of glad because that means I have more left in the tank to serve the community for however many years to come. Mm-hmm. So I'm just really thankful right now. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you so much, Heaven or Heck, for just adding so much class to this discussion.
Class. My pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Once again, feel free to maybe give this podcast episode a like or a comment or whatever. My name has been Neofant. You've been listening to CBM Voice Chat. Hopefully all that Snyder Cut discussion has you going on a buzz, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody, and have a good night.